Thank you, Adam. And as Adam said, at the end of the program, we're going to have a Q&A session. So if there's anything that we don't cover with our presenters today and you have a question about anything, like I said, there's a lot of talent in this room. And I'm sure there's somebody in this room that can answer your question for you if we don't cover it today. So at this time, I'd like to bring up our first presentation, and that is digital marketing, getting the most out of websites and social media. I look out here, there's a lot of old school guys in here that were around like me before the internet, and we're always learning new things every day about internet, social media, websites, that sort of thing. So, like I say, take notes, ask questions, have a good time, and enjoy yourself. And at this time, I would like to bring up from Winning Motorsports Marketing, and those of you that do get on the website, you probably see her on the internet, and Crate Racing Insider. Please welcome Kate Dillon.
All right. There we go. I'm more of a hold it in my hand kind of a thing. I guess it's all the interviews I've done over the years. But I'm here today, I'm talking about digital marketing for promoters. And of course, I talk a lot about marketing. I love marketing. It's really become a huge deal. But first of all, I want to find out if everybody in this room is awake. And so I have a big question. Has anyone here ever been screwed over in the racing industry? Anyone? Oh, okay. All right. I just want to make sure. I'm pretty sure I wasn't going to be the only one there. And so I know a lot of you have no idea who I am. So I thought I'd back up. About 6 years ago, I decided that I just had this idea about crates and coming up with a website for crate guys, right? And I thought, there's websites out there. I mean, all you do, you hire a web guy, and he builds a website for me and teaches me how to run it, and I'll be good. I mean, how hard can it be, right? Well, so I pay the web guy up front, and I started my business with nothing. So I'm charging this on my credit card, and he does like the basic structure, and halfway through he says, I have done all the work for you that I'm gonna do. Dude bailed on me halfway through the project. So at that point, I guess when I look back, I think I could have given up, but that really wasn't in my vocabulary, so I figured it out. And it really, at the end of the day, it really wasn't that hard. But here's the thing, about 6 months later, I find myself at a digital marketing conference, and I find out that the back end of my website sucks. It looks pretty, it looks totally fine, but it really sucked. I wasn't ever gonna go super far with what I had. And that's when I dove into that whole world of digital marketing and social media. And so what I'm most known for, of course, is CrateInsider.com. And I took that from just an idea to a company where we've done literally millions online. And we've done it through digital marketing, the internet, and social media. And what I want to start off with is that for me, I like to say that your website, it is the core of everything that you do. I'm seeing a huge reliance on social media, and believe me, I love social media. It is the best tool we have ever been handed in the world. But at the core of it all is a website. And that's why I've got this little diagram here. So basically, at the end of the day, all roads lead back to your website. And with that, I actually have a little checklist here. Yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about. Because I did, this is a brand new presentation for me. So I'm very passionate about trying to make our industry better, here in the racing industry. So if you want to download this for yourself, this is the racetrack website checklist. I want to point out just a couple of things that I see over and over again, because I see a whole lot of websites out there. And here we go. I guess and just flip the page. I don't want to read the whole thing to you, but some of the big pieces, and I haven't compared notes with my race pass or anything. These are just the things that I've really noticed. First of all, make sure that your website is mobile friendly. Now what that means is when you bring up your website on your phone, we should be able to read the text. That means no pinching and scrolling and all of that. If your site isn't mobile friendly, I definitely encourage you to make a change right away. It's huge. It means that you're not going to show up on Google search nearly as well if it's not mobile friendly. A big one is provide clear directions to your track and listing the address, including the city and state. I have been on many a track website that tells me that they're just right outside of Springfield. Really? Springfield where? I need a little bit more information than that. And some of these things, hopefully you're already doing them. And I would say update your track news weekly or more frequently as necessary. Because again, the website is the core. It's not your day-to-day, it's not all these little things, that's what social media is for. But race results, so many times we've gotten this whole lead up to a big event, and then at the end we don't even know if it happened, right? So all of that information needs to be on your website. So I'm a big fan of having the results on your website is a big piece. And I think there's one more, there's a whole checklist here, but also an FAQ section. I'm also passionate about bringing new fans into our sport. For a long time, we've relied on the fans that have been coming for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, or grandpa brought them, or their uncle brought them, or whatever. But in order to really grow our sport and be strong in our industry, we need to bring in some new people. And part of that is, I'm going to talk a lot about educating potential new fans with that. So let's move on here. All right, let's talk about the goal of social media. And the goal of social media is that we want this to be for fans, for racers, to gain sponsors, and to build a community. I'm big on talking about in marketing that to make any sale, we need branding, authenticity, and story. Those are the 3 pieces. And I talk a lot about branding with racers. And by the way, I just want you guys to all know right now, I sell race car parts. I have a marketing program for racers, but I have nothing to sell you. So I'm not here today. I know a lot of times when a marketer's on the stage, you're like, okay, I'm waiting for the pitch. I literally have nothing to sell you guys, so you can just take this in, go use it for your tracks, all of that. So a big opportunity we have is for connection on social media, and that's where I want to show you some ideas and things. Oh my goodness. Yeah, welcome to my first day, right? I hear a lot of pushback that I hear a lot of times about social media is killing racing. Well, I'm going to be real with you. That's like saying guns kill people. No, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Social media isn't killing racing. People using social media improperly is what is killing racing. And you know what? The thing is we need to take control of that conversation. It means not getting super emotional. It means not being defensive. It means owning something when it's wrong, but it also means trying to get rid of that negativity right away. Now, where do we see most of that negativity coming from? Is it from our fans, or is it from drivers? What do you think? Do you think it's drivers? Because I'm pretty sure that that's where it's coming from. 90% of the time, it's drivers and their crew members. So what is our solution to that? I have a solution for you. That is not the right direction. Oh, there we go. It is the right direction. Is to separate the audiences. And what I mean by that is Facebook has given us this opportunity now to not just have a page, but to have a group. And it is my feeling that since you have 2 audiences, that you separate them. The page is for your fans. It's for you to build that community. It's for all of the amazing things, and I'm going to give you some great ideas that you can take to your fans. But then it's that you put the group for your racers and for their crew members. And I have a huge reason why also. It's not just about the negativity. But let's say you put out a post today and you say, you know what, for this event this weekend, we're going to have a 1 pound per lap burn off rule. Okay. Let's say you've got 10,000 fans to your Facebook page. How many of those are their racers or their crews? About 100? You have an audience of 10,000, and now you've put out a post that only applies to 100 people. So even if this was shown to all 10,000, 9,900 of them are just going to skip right by it because it's not relevant to them. So what if the next post that you put out is all about your big event, and you might even have free hot dogs? Facebook works on an algorithm, and when you put out information that isn't relevant to your audience, it shows that you're not popular. So guess what happens to that post where you are promoting your event? It goes to crickets. Facebook isn't going to show it to anybody because of the fact you've shown that you're not relevant to your audience. Because you know what? Fans don't care about a burn-off rule. Fans don't care if you use bump stops. Fans don't care what your weights are at the scales. They don't care about any of that. that is all information that can land over in your Facebook group. That's where it's relevant. And then if they want to have a meltdown because, you know, they wanted to use bump stops this weekend and you're ruining racing and all of that things, at least it's contained in a group and it's not contaminating your fans. Because I've certainly been to many a track Facebook page and thought, maybe I want to go there. But after you see all of the meltdowns, it's like, I don't want no part of this drama. And if I'm thinking that, your regular fan, why would they want to do that? Why would they want to expose themselves to, that's not what we're here for. Because what we need to understand is, like Humpy Wheeler told me a long time ago, is that we are racing, it's not about cars going fast. We're in the entertainment industry. That's what we're here to do, is we're here to entertain the fans. And that needs to be our super biggest priority right there. So is that helpful to you guys, thinking about the Facebook pages versus groups? Is that a helpful tip? Anyone? Okay, great. Now I just want to do a rundown on some of the other, how do you use the different platforms? I personally run over 20 different platforms or spots between all of my websites and all my social media platforms. So I experiment with a lot of stuff. So I've talked about the Facebook page and the Facebook group. Twitter, if you're a track or a series and you like to put out the like play-by-play type of stuff, things like your heat race lineups and your qualifying lineups and who qualified first, and it ends up being like 20 posts in a night, that is not a good use for Facebook. It really isn't. But for Twitter, it's a great use for that. And I'm not a huge Twitter user, just to be perfectly honest. But that's a really good use case. Instagram is a lot about pretty pictures, but literally every platform these days wants video. There's no way I could be on this stage at all and not talk about video, so you're going to hear about that a lot more. And I've never seen a whole lot of traction with Instagram. We've been posting there nearly daily for about 2 years, and we've got a little audience, but our main audience, of course, is over on Facebook. YouTube, I mentioned video, that's huge. And if I have time to talk about email today, email is another very, very powerful tool that you can use, because with any of these social media platforms, what those are all rented land. Your website is an owned property. Social media is rented land. Those aren't your audience. That's Facebook's audience. That's Instagram's audience. You don't own any of that audience. But when you have a website and you combine that with email, you now own that audience. That is your audience that you can market to directly without anybody in between. So when we talk about social media, there's really 3 things that we're looking at with social media. What the purpose of any post is: we want to educate, we want to inspire, and we want to entertain. And think about the post that you're putting out there. If you're promoting your event, that's of course an educational post of what's coming up, or that it's entertainment. And I would really love to see, big thing that I'm seeing lacking in our sport right now is education. And if we want to reach that mainstream audience, because I'm big, if we can bring in more fans, we'll bring in more sponsorship. We'll bring in more drivers, it's a whole community. We have a whole ecosystem that's going on in our sport. It's not just top down. We're all in this together. So how do we educate the regular guy? And, regular guy, girl, whatever you want to say. I'll give you a good example. I go to plenty of events. I sell race car parts for a living. But if I go to a track, I can clearly tell the difference between a dirt late model and a modified. But there's like 200 different street stock series, and I have no idea what I'm looking at, why it's important, or what the difference is between that one and that one. Why are they running together, but these guys over here aren't? And I remember, I grew up in racing. My dad was a racer, and when I was a little kid, I talk about this all the time, that we had programs. And in those programs, we had like little diagrams to just even say what the cars are. 2 sentences would make a huge difference. Because if we can inform them, if people know what they're looking at, and we tell them why they should care, then they've got a reason to care. They've got a reason to be invested in it. And I will talk a little bit about story because it's so incredibly important. But we want to reach the regular guy. Okay, so we don't have programs anymore. We're in a digital world. I totally get that, and I'm fine with that. But why not on your website have a section that's an FAQ section that says, here's a street stock, and here's what's important about it. Here's a crate late model, or what's the difference between a 602 late model versus a 604 late model? Talk about that. I will tell you, I make a lot of video. And this is exactly what I use for a parameter. When people walk away from a video of mine, I want them to feel like they're smarter. Or maybe I can inspire them, or maybe I'm just ridiculous and they had a good laugh. If it can go with any of those, and it's a good idea. So, this has absolutely nothing to do with digital marketing. But I'm going to tell you my biggest pet peeve. I'm just going to share this out there because I'm a big proponent of bringing in more of a mainstream audience. That means going to the barber shop and having those guys come out, or going to a lawyer's firm and having them come out to our track. I came from the architecture industry and love telling this story. I hate baseball. But the baseball director or marketing guy came to my boss and said, hey, have your employees come out and have them come to the baseball game, and we'll get you this whole package, or you got tickets and hot dogs, and you can have this whole team building event. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to go to a baseball game. But I went anyway, and you know what? I had a good time. I had a great time. I don't know anything about baseball other than seeing it on TV and thinking oh my God, it's boring, but they explained it. It was entertaining, and we all had a fantastic time. So the next time somebody asked me if I wanted to go to a baseball game, I said, hey, why not? I know it's going to get done in a decent time. I know that there's some, the fun food, the hot dogs and that. But there's one thing that I've noticed in racing that really separates us from being able to do that. And it's the bathrooms, you guys. If there's one change you make to your tracks, take a look at your restrooms in the grandstands. Would you bring, I came from architecture, could I bring someone from my former life to a track? A lot of places I couldn't. I'd be embarrassed. And this is my industry that I love and I'm passionate about every single day, but I'm going to be embarrassed about your track's bathrooms, and I'm not going to bring my friends. So let's take a look at that, please, for the love of God. I don't care about the pit bathrooms. Go porta potties all day long. I have no expectations, but I think it'll make a huge difference in who you can even market to in the first place. Let's get out to that regular mainstream crowd, and now let's get back to digital marketing. So you just heard a story there, but it's interesting. I talk about story a lot. It's something that I came upon a couple of years ago. We were talking about educate, but I came across a story and talking about telling stories in our industry, and it felt like it was something that was missing. One of the big things, when I'm growing up in this, is all of those stories that we tell each other afterwards. And yet, again, when I go to tracks, I don't have any connection. It's just little machines out on the track. And we need to understand that people connect with people. And how do we connect the best? It's through story. And it was interesting because as I'm putting this presentation together this week, I see this tweet from Kevin Swindell. I have no idea what this situation is. No idea. It could be drama. It could be just a meltdown over nothing. But he does say in here what a difference it would make if we were telling stories in our industry. So I won't stand up here and tell you anything that is just an idea of mine that I haven't tried, because I have this thing, like if I have an idea, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm not going to sit around and just whine about it, other than your bathrooms, but I will, like the driver stories. So this is something I did a couple of years ago that I started doing driver stories, and I want to talk to you about the results and how that's going to build my audience and the credibility, and there's a whole strategy around this. Now, with any of this, am I selling race car parts with this? Probably not directly. Are you selling pit passes or grandstand tickets directly? Not necessarily, but I wanted to also be out there marketing in a way that didn't show that I was just like sell all the time. I don't want to be like a living, walking infomercial. And I felt that it was missing, so I just jumped in there and did something about it. But here's what I want to show you is look at the reach. I did it for the reason I wanted to tell more driver stories, but this is a video that got 16,000 views and 184 shares. Keep in mind, my audience is about 20,000 fans on Facebook. That's a significant number, plus all of them. Now, this is a good example. You're like, oh, well, hey, this is Jeremy Mayfield, former NASCAR driver, like, everybody knows who he is, and that's why. And you got to do the big names. Let me tell you this, you don't. So last year during Speed Weeks, Wesley Outland is a good friend of mine, and he was already down there. So I hired him to do a little bit of video work down there where he would interview some of my customers and do a pit walk, and I'll talk about pit walks later in my other presentation. But here's Wesley interviewing the Bowie brothers. Now, when we're doing these interviews for Crate Insider, I'm not there to be event specific at all. So I want to hear why do they race in the first place? I want to know, what do you do when you're not racing? What are those things that are about you? What sets you apart as a race car driver? Why are you here in the first place? What are you passionate about in racing? And then of course I always ask them, who do you want to thank? So here's the Bowie brothers. They're not a huge name like you've got with a Jeremy Mayfield or Kyle Bronson sweeping all that last week, and he is a customer of mine as well. It's not that, but when they walked away, they're like, I can't believe that you were interested in even talking to us. We're just regular guys. We're just brothers who love to race. And how that made them feel was exactly, I didn't go with a strategy, I just wanted to tell stories. And Wesley telling me that after the fact, well, what is that going to do? I didn't do it for any nefarious reason. I did it because I want to share stories. I want to do what I want to do, the things that I have as ideas and things that are going to make things better. But do you think that the Bowie brothers are probably a little more loyal to me at Crate Insider? I would say they are. If you're doing stuff like this for your racers, where you're telling their stories, and then here's the win all the way around. I'm always looking for ways where everybody wins, and you're gonna have that somewhere. But here the driver wins. I'm big on video. Driver wins. You win as a track. You win because you win for loyalty. Your fans win because now that's not just a number down there. That's not just like a number 57 and then like the 18 car. No, these are people. And people connect with people. That's huge. And now I've got somebody to root for because I know their name. They're interesting to me. Or if I don't like them, maybe I'm going to be against them. I mean, whatever. We're always going to have rivalries in racing, and so be it. And of course, this isn't as big, but look at this, 25 shares. What does that mean? These guys are sharing it. Their wives are sharing it. Their cousins, their aunts, grandma's sharing it. And you've given them publicity. And how about their sponsors? If we can throw in a couple little sponsored digs in here, oh, huge, huge. So some other ideas. Obviously you're posting about your events that are coming up. So what are some other ideas you can do with social media that can be in line with building a community like what we're talking about? A lot of your tracks have been around for a really long time. Why is Eldora so special? Or Daytona 500, why is it so special? Or the Indy, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, why are those places so special? They're special because they've got stories. When they publish about Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and here's this core sample of all of the layers of that track over the years, I mean, that was fascinating to me. And when you think about all of the legacy and all the things that have happened, that's huge. But so talking a little bit about the track history, again, these things can cross over between all of the different areas. So between your websites and your social media, I love that it's called a website because it is like the center of a web. And all of this stuff is interconnected. You can repurpose this content all over the place. Behind the scenes, I mean, this is a great one. Here again, we've experimented with that as well. I do some live video from PRI, for instance, which is a little more suitable for my market. Or when Wesley was out and about doing pit walks for me, at one point he was interviewing the lady in the concession stand and talking about the pride that she took in creating the food on the menu for that track. Well, I mean, come on, guys, that is just a straight up sales pitch for your food and your concessions. If they're like, oh my gosh, I can get fried chicken and green beans, well, I don't need to stop at McDonald's on my way to the track. If they understand that, oh my gosh, you can get a buffet platter for $5, I mean, a lot of times, think of all these big events and concerts where you go there and it's like $8 for a beer and it's like, $19 for a hot dog. If you can get that out, but here you're doing it in this way that really personifies. There's now a person that's in touch with that. Or, the guy that runs your motor grader at your track. If he's been doing this for 15 years, there's a lot more to that story than just the guy that's, got a part-time job. Let's talk to him. Let's put a little video out about him. What does he do? I mean, he's a big fly fisherman on the side, or whatever. When we start telling these people stories, then it really, you can connect with an audience because you're going to find people that have that in common, and they're going to feel like they're smarter. And if they feel smarter, if they've got a choice between going to your track where you're sharing information and some rando track, which one are they going to pick? They're going to go to the one that they feel most connected to. And memorial races. I mean, I'll give you a great example, is that we're really good friends with the Smith family, so Jeff Smith and Freddie Smith. for instance. And I don't know Freddie nearly as well, but a driver I work with a lot is Alex Hendren, and he was just racing in the Grassy Smith Memorial. So we're talking about this. I'm like, do you know who Grassy Smith is? He's like, no, I really have no idea. Like, you don't realize that's Jeff's grandpa. I mean, this is a family we know. This is a racer at a memorial race that has no idea why there's a race named after this person. Why do we have memorial races if we're not going to do something to remember the people whose names these races are named after? I mean, there's a whole week of content right there talking about their contribution to our sport. I mean, that history, that legacy, all of that is why we keep doing this. I mean, I'm sure everybody in this room, a lot of us in this room, could go find a job somewhere else making just as much money or a hell of a lot more with not the hours. We work 8 to 5 somewhere, make a lot more money. We're here because we're passionate about this sport and about our industry. So let's tell those stories. What a difference that would make if your race has meaning other than, well, that's kind of a better trophy than that one last week. Right? So those are just some ideas. I just want to share ideas with you. I want, back to educate, inspire, and all of that. That's what I want you to do from this presentation is I want you to feel like you're smarter when you walk away. Or maybe you feel inspired, like, oh my God, we're going to totally do that on our track. Or, hopefully I'm being entertaining. And I don't know where I'm at on time. Okay, so I think I'm okay on time. So let's talk about email for a moment. Email, and what I mean by that is having an email service provider where you're collecting email addresses, because we're all busy people in this world. Every single one of us is busy, and we forget things. And I am so glad that my vet will text me the day before my cat has to go into the vet, or that my dentist will call me the day before. Now, I mean, that's a little more excessive than what we need to do in racing, but many, many times I've opened up my email to discover, like, oh yeah, that event is coming up. I'm really glad I got the reminder. So this is a way to reach me directly. I mean, if you've got people that, other people are not probably on social media as much as I am. I mean, I'm there, I kind of live over on social media I live on the internet. I might as well just be a digital something. But not everybody does. And even so that means if you're putting out, I don't care if you put out 20 posts this week, if somebody logs into Facebook only a couple of times, they might not see your message. Facebook is a fantastic resource. All of these social media platforms are, but they're just a tool, and they don't necessarily reach our audience. Email will reach our audience, and that's a huge deal. And you can throw in some incentives in there. You can say, hey, bring a friend and get a free hot dog. I mean, there's all kinds of incentives that you can do, and you can see that actually track. I mean, print out this email or show it to us on your phone, and you're going to get a couple dollars off, or whatever special or deal that you want to do. Email is a perfect vehicle for doing that, and you reach them directly. I'll tell you another thing. I will talk about sponsorship in a bit here, but any of these, your metrics are going to matter. So if you can tell a potential sponsor that you have an email list of 10,000 people, that means something. Now, I will tell you, just like we talked about with Facebook pages and Facebook groups, you want to segment your audiences. And that everything that we have in our world today is having the right message to the right person at the right time. That's why when you look something up on the internet, I'm not a huge fan of what's called retargeting, where you click on something on a website and then you're on Facebook and you're seeing ads. I still think that's creepy. And I know our audience thinks that's creepy. But what I don't want to see, I'm 40-something, I have no children, I don't want to see diaper commercials. Just saying. I don't. I mean, that's totally irrelevant to me. So people expect to have relevant information, and that's what you can do in email when you have segmented audiences. You want to talk about a burn-off rule, bump stops, any of those other drivery type things, or your driver's meeting is at a certain time, have your audience segmented so that your drivers are in one group. Your fans are in another group, and your sponsors are in another group. So that way, if you've got a big event coming up, you can just email your sponsors and say, hey, here's our thing, this is what we've got going on, let's continue that conversation. Clearly, that message doesn't apply to fans, it doesn't apply to drivers, it just applies to your sponsors. But at the same time, that's just called segmenting. It's not 3 separate email lists, it's just one email list with everybody in their little pile. But at the same time, you can send out one mass email to everybody that says, hey, be sure to come out this Saturday night to our something memorial race. We've got lots of fun things going on. Drivers click here for details, and fans, be sure to visit our sponsors. that will help you a lot with all of that. All right, so I think that is about all. Let's find out. Let's find out. Slides will tell us, right? Oh, there we go. That's what I thought, is Q&A. And while we're grabbing a mic right here, I do want to say that I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here. I kind of just told the short version. Of course, I'm still with Crate Insider, and about a year ago is when I started Winning Motorsports Marketing, where I'm teaching racers about marketing and sponsorship. And then when talking to Adam about this event, I asked, hey, can I record this and then put it on my website? And that's what we're doing. So this presentation will be on my winningmotorsportsmarketing.com website. It'll probably take me about a week and a half to get it all edited, because I actually have a whole separate business too. So great. With that, Adam's got the mic. Who has a question? I can't be that good. Because I summed up 6 years of knowledge in like a half an hour here. Don't be afraid, I really don't bite.
I have a question.
Great.
I'm going to need a mic.
See, you're me. I'm that guy that always asks the questions.
So you were talking about doing the interviews, and I missed like the questions, like the set of questions that you asked. So could you go over those again?
Sure. And I'll be honest, I was terrible at interviews. And in fact, the Jeremy Mayfield interview was a funny one, because after everything he said, because I'm not an announcer, that's not really what my thing was. And it's really funny because no matter what he said, my response, I just felt like I had to respond with something, so I'd say, that's awesome. So somebody on YouTube put in a comment that says, you know what, I think we should have a new drinking game, that every time she says awesome, we take a shot. So I commented, I said, I think that's the best idea, oh my God, ever, So the idea would be, what is unique about this person? Some of this, if I don't know them, some of the basic questions I would ask is, what do you do outside of racing? I did an interview with one of my customers. I did a terrible job, because afterwards I find out he's an underwater welder. Do you think some people might think that's kind of cool? I probably should ask that question. Another question I'd like to ask is, why did you pick your number? What's special about your number? A lot of these numbers have stories behind them. Or maybe it's the colors of their cars. Or if they have a nickname, love asking about nicknames and hearing them tell the stories. What we want to do is try to ask open-ended questions. It's like, instead of I've seen some bad interviews. How long have you been racing? 3 years. So it is hard to bring out, the answers, and it's so embarrassing when I see that. We're like, who do you have to thank? Tell us about your sponsors. Well, I got a landscaping company over here, and we want to probably prep them a little bit and say, hey, we're going to ask some of these questions. A lot of times I ask people when I'm doing like a personal interview, is there anything you want your fans to know? And actually, that is a question I ask in interviews. What's something you would like your fans to know about you? And ask that. And I don't really have a particular set of questions, other than I'm just trying to continue to improve, to have a story that goes with them, so that now when we see that person, that we can associate it with a brand, that there's what is the one thing that separates them from someone else? And it could be activities that are outside of racing. It could be, maybe during the day that they are involved in the racing industry. That's exciting too. But anytime the fans can get to know someone a little bit better, back to the program idea when I was a kid. I remember there being programs and there's a picture of my dad's face or his car or something, and it's like, here's Dick Schultz. He lives in Waterloo, Iowa. He builds chassis for a living, and he's married and has 2 kids. Well, all of a sudden, he's not just he is something. I know where he lives, I know what he does, and I know his family situation. And a lot of times family is so important in racing, and let's tell a little bit about those stories too. If we've got first generation, we need to hammer that and show that this is possible for people that are dreamers and think that it's never going to be possible for them to get behind the wheel of a race car. That's a great opportunity to explain that, yeah, it is possible today. Or third generation, legacy is so huge. Or older racer, or younger racer. How old are you? And what are you doing? What's your hardest subject in school? Or which one are you best at? Or, what are you thinking about? Maybe being an engineer? Because I hear you're like the shop guy. Or, I don't know, I'm literally just making things up right now. How about anyone else? Any other questions out there? All right, I think that's about what we got here. I want to thank you so much. You guys have been so attentive. I don't see anybody who's fallen asleep, so that is huge. And I'm going to hand the mic back to Roby here to introduce our next presenter.